Hello and welcome to Four Wheels Good, the finest motoring fair in the land. And on tonight's helter-skelter of a show, we take you spinning through the world of US muscle machines with our ever-popular stateside correspondent Steve Parker. Ian Royle meets owners and enthusiasts of motorhomes at the National Motorhome and Tourer Show. And John Wright produces magic with the help of his Birmingham screwdriver and other tools aboard his Big Dipper, otherwise known as Inside Motors. But first, Nicky, Fox and Eamonn and Neil have been doing a head-to-head test of two cars which you certainly couldn't call dodgems, Jaguar's XK8 and the classic E-Type.
In the 60s, Jaguar produced this, the XK-engined E-Type, an astonishing sports car at a bargain price. Yours in '68 for £2,000, 15 and tuppence, equivalent now to 25 grand.
30 years later, and with a minimum price of £55,000, Jaguar has rekindled XK nostalgia. This is the new XK8 convertible. At more than twice the price of an E-Type, is it twice the car? You decide, because this week at Adlington Hall in Cheshire, the E-Type comes head-to-head with the XK8.
This is what the original XK fuss was all about. 4.2 litres, 6 cylinders, twin overhead cams and 3 SU carburettors. It's gorgeous, isn't it? And that can get you from 0 to 60 in 7.2 seconds and reach a top speed of 150 miles an hour. Well, actually, that's only nearly the truth. When the press reviewed the original E-Type, the car had, well, let's say, been tweaked. And when it eventually reached the customer, it was only good for a mere 142 miles an hour.
Open up the XK8 and you'll find one of these. I'll try and say it in one breath. It's a new all-aluminium AJ V8 4-litre 32-valve quad-cam engine, and it's all covered in black plastic. Jaguar claims a 0 to 60 of 6.7 and a top speed of 154, and I've no reason to doubt their word. A third of a century on and just 12 miles an hour more. But with the average age of a Jaguar owner at 53, would more performance be advisable anyway?
Forget figures like that for now and just take a look at these cars side by side. Jaguar have deliberately reawakened the old styling cliches, and they talk about the long feline body, the low oval grille and the power bulge.
Oh yes, I can see all that, although this is much wider. Still, they both have a high waistline for that snug cockpit feel and what Jaguar calls muscular haunches. But I find the new car's relative restraint almost as seductive as the E-Type's lean, steroid-induced physique.
I should tell you that this car has another name. It's called Jack the Jag. The owner named it after his grandfather. Ian, I know this is a 1970s model and it was a left hooker when you bought it, but what condition was it in?
Oh, very poor really. I had to renew the floors, boot floor, offside wing, and generally strip it down and rebuild everything.
How long did it take?
3.5 years.
And how much is it worth now?
It's insured for 25,000.
Well, can I have a drive of it?
Don't think so, Eamonn.
How about if we offer you the chance to drive the XK8?
Okay.
In the past, we've criticised Jaguar for a number of things, such as poor legroom and irrational positioning of some switches. Well, this time they've got it right. Of course, the back's hopelessly cramped, but up here where it counts, there's excellent legroom and everything comes readily to hand. So what else have we got? Fly-off handbrake, deep-set instruments, a new 5-speed auto shift, there isn't a manual option, and a good mixture of leather and fabric trim. Press this button and the roof goes down in 20 seconds. And no, it can't be opened by a jealous passenger as an air brake on the motorway. At speeds of more than 10 miles an hour, the hood just doesn't operate. Hood up and you'll have to reverse using your side mirrors. Hood down and there's still plenty of boot space for more than just the tonneau cover.
You have to put the hood down yourself on this one, but who cares? Once you've climbed over the sill, it's still a bit of a squeeze if you like to drive with straight legs. Now what have we got? Chrome handbrake, but after that it's black, black and black. 4 manual gears, but nowhere to put your left leg. 3 windscreen wipers and a gorgeous view along that bonnet. Okay, Jack, off we go.
This car is quiet and elegant, but if you put your faith in the traction control and floor it, you're gone with a growl. More sensibly driven, this car will suit the driver who likes the gentle touch. It takes light pedal pressure down below and has well-weighted power steering on top. The ride's firm but never jars, and the auto shift's really smooth. But deep engineering aside, this car gives you all the right signals. It makes you feel secure, in control, and very, very smug.
Listen to that. The XK engine sounds as though it can go from 0 to 140 in top, which is just as well because I'm having a bit of trouble finding third. Serious impressions? Well, the steering's a bit heavy, but the bonnet does get shorter the longer you drive it. Corners can be a problem, not because of the handling's fine, just you catch your knuckles here. Luckily the brakes are good and the ride is firm. Having said all that, it's remarkably rattle and vibration free.
Well, Ian, what do you think of it?
Fantastic car.
And would you sell your E-Type to buy one of these?
No, I built that myself.
Of course, the great thing about driving a Legend is you really have to work at it. Once more around the block, I think.
Sorry, I don't know where he's gone with your car, Ian. I better go and look for him. Could take some time.
A couple of real classics there. It's good to see a car like the E-Type that looks as good as it did when it was new. Well, now it's time to jet over to the States to see Steve Parker, the man who gives us the US slant on the world of motoring. This week, Steve has been checking out a company who work magic on Mustangs and tunes them up to be the ultimate muscle machines of the road.
Well, let's face it, these days most cars are just boring. And on a beautiful Southern California day like today, what I wouldn't give to have a real American muscle car. You know, that's why I love America. All your dreams come true. Ask for a muscle car, you get a muscle car. About 30 years ago, a man named Carroll Shelby made a lot of friends and a lot of money by building high-performance versions of the classic Ford Mustang. And today, another man from Southern California, Steve Saleen, is doing the very same thing. Now this is what all cars should sound like. About 15 years ago, Steve Saleen, a former IndyCar racer and race car engineer, started Saleen Mustang in Southern California. These days, he takes a totally stock Mustang like this one and works all sorts of magic to it. Works on convertibles and hardtops alike until he comes up with this 510 horsepower of supercharged V8 monster muscle American style. It's about $60,000, about 40,000 pounds. If you can't afford that, you could get half the power for about half the price in the S281. This is the heart of the top-of-the-line Saleen Mustang, a good old American pushrod V8 5.8-liter 351 cubic inch engine that produces 510 horsepower. Imagine that 510 horsepower from a street-legal engine. It's called the Ford Windsor engine. I guess you could say it is the royalty of the Ford engine lineup. Imagine taking this car out to Santa Pod or York for a quick quarter mile, which it will do in about 12.5 seconds with street tires on it. Again, completely street legal. Now, if you don't have $60,000 to buy a brand new Saleen S351 Mustang, and I know I don't, I'm only a television presenter, you could call Saleen at their shop here in Irvine, California, and build a Saleen Mustang with all the parts they sell just about from the ground up. It's a traditional American hot rod shop. And like a traditional American hot rod and muscle car company, Saleen also runs a race team. And they may be competing next year at Le Mans in the GT2 class. One of the drivers is Tim Allen, the star of television's Home Improvement. Tim brings a lot of money and a lot of prestige to the team. Disney, which produces that television show, is the main sponsor of the Saleen Allen race team. I talked with Brian Murray, who's the director of marketing for Saleen, about the company's philosophy.
We're a small volume manufacturer that produces a special Mustang, or I should say a super high performance Mustang, that's sold exclusively through Ford dealerships. We produce anywhere from 1,000 to 1,200 units per year. We do produce two models. One is what we call the S281, which is our entry-level version, which starts off at $28,000 US. Secondly is our 351, which is our 510 horsepower supercar, which retails for $52,000 and above. Currently, our distribution is in North America only, in the US and Canada. We are currently, though, looking to expand to the European market. I think the first phase of that will be our entrance next year in the 24 Hours of Le Mans and a few other endurance championships on the European continent.
You can still take a Ford Mustang and turn it into an authentic muscle car. Steve Saleen has proven that with the S351. The engine, the steering, the braking, the transmission, the suspension, all upgraded, all improved, all much tighter, and certainly more performance-oriented than a stock Mustang right from the factory. Now, is it worth $60,000? Well, that's a question only you can answer. But if you want to buy a limited edition American muscle car that's really a modern-day version of the original muscle car, the Pontiac GTO, this is probably the one to buy. And you know what? It does a pretty good job of acting like an authentic American V8 muscle car. Got very few complaints about the car, and you even get about 20 miles per gallon. How could you argue with that? But at $60,000, who cares about the mileage? And you know, it just occurs to me, it's probably raining where you are, and I'm driving a Saleen Mustang convertible in Southern California, and well, you're not. Sorry.
Thanks once again to Steve Parker, who works so hard stateside to bring us the best in US motoring stories. That's it for part one. Join us after the break when Eamonn Royle meets some owners of mobile homes and finds out why this form of motoring is on the increase. And John Wright continues the rebuild of his classic MG engine. See you then. Welcome back to the tastiest motoring feast on television, Four Wheels Good. And on the sweet menu that is part two, John Wright will be serving up a delicious bowl of oil and nuts. But first, Eamonn Royle has been finding out more about the growth of interest in motorhomes with the help of Peter Baker at the National Motorhome and Tourer Show in Peterborough.
Now, welcome to the first of a series of features looking into the world of motorhomes. Perhaps we're all getting a bit richer, or maybe more people are discovering the advantages of owning a motorhome. But amazingly, the market in the UK grew by an extraordinary 16% last year, and that's a trend that looks set to continue this year. This is the National Motorhome and Tourer Show at the East of England Showground near Peterborough, one of the largest outdoor motor caravan events in the UK. If we're going to find the reasons behind the growth in the market, surely it's going to be here.
I've been involved in the industry for about 8 or 9 years now, and numbers had remained fairly steady until last year when we saw quite a big increase. I think somewhere around 20% or something, and I think it will continue that way. The signs are good. We've had the best January and February, I think, for a number of years, so I think the signs are very good for it to continue that way.
And what do you think the reasons are for that increase?
I don't know, perhaps it's people who've got some disposable income. I think, yes, the things with motor caravans, it's not an impulse buy. You tend to find that people take a lot of time to make their mind up, and perhaps they've got this money, they've got this disposable income, and they're now looking to buy motor caravans, which, let's face it, are a relatively expensive item, a luxury item, and perhaps that's the reason.
Our sales are really 30% up on last year, so we're very pleased with the progress. Every sign that the market is very strong.
And what do you think the reason is for that?
I think for a lot of people that they've perhaps been holding back, and they feel now confident that they have the money, and they're coming out and buying while they feel confident in the product.
Now, the most popular conversions for motorhomes are something like this with a high top. The high top is that moulded fiberglass panel on the top there, added to the 16-foot or so of coach you've already got, and it gives a sense of space and also, very importantly, permanent standing room. Now, this is where things get serious in the motorhome business. These are coach-built motorhomes. That means that they start out life as a chassis and a cab, and then a purpose-built body is put onto them using either aluminium or GRP construction. Now, to find out how motorhome ownership suits you, what you need to do is get out and have a go in one. Now, these are the Eldis Autostratus series, based on the Peugeot Boxer chassis and cab. So I thought it a good idea to lend one to Peter Baker and his family to take away for the weekend and see how they got on.
Well, Ian, this is the street in which I live, and when you first handed this Autostratus over to me, I really thought my neighbours would come over in arms and say, what's this big thing doing in our street? Well, actually, the neighbours have been over, but only to ask questions, and they're very interested in it. Well, this motorhome has been the talk of the family ever since we had it about a week ago, and at the moment my 2 small children are inside playing and drawing and waving and shouting at the moment. Now, you may remember last year we reviewed the Volkswagen Multivan. That was based on the old Caravelle. It had 6 or 7 seats and the seating folded to make a double bed. It also had a nice big internal table. No kitchen or toilet like this. And just think, for 6 or 7 grand more than the Multivan, you could get something like this, the full Monty. Well, it was all rather daunting when we first got this eldest Autostratus. So Gary Rowlands from the company showed me round.
This is the overcab double bed. As you can see, it pulls out very easily to form a double bed for 2 occupants. As you can see here on the near side, we have a long day seat, which is ideal for those times when you want to pull up and have a cup of tea and just take it easy. A fully integrated oven and a refrigerator. The sink and drainer, and to give extra work surfaces, here we have the toilet and shower compartment.
Well, the family and I have had a look through the Caravan Club brochure. We've found some sites, we've booked them, and we'll be getting on the road very soon. Join us next week and see how we got on.
And that's just about it for this week. Join us again next week when we'll give you even more information about motorhomes and how you can develop a whole new lifestyle. See you then.
Ian Royle there with the first in a series of features from the National Motorhome and Tourer Show. He'll have the second of his reports next week. Well, it's time once again to whisk over to the famous studio garage to see what John Fix-A-Car Wright has been up to inside motors.
Do the other side while I'm here. You can do this with a hammer and chisel, but it's just a little gentler to do it this way. There we go. Right, we'll fit the next 2 main bearing shells, which is exactly the same procedure. We'll just pop the nuts in. But any time that stops rotating freely, you want to stop and go back and investigate why. Because if it seizes up solid, there's no way that engine's going to start. Now it's the turn of the pistons, the rods, and those infamous big ends. Right, this is a connecting rod which connects the crankshaft to the piston end. As you can see, it's got a big hole and a little hole. That's called the little end of the conrod, and that's called the big end. So if they ever say, "Me big end's gone," that's the bearing they mean. Right. These are the pistons we're going to use. They're slightly special in that they are the original Mini Cooper pistons. Now we've had the block specially bored out to take these. Now they're standard for a Mini, but they're a well over bore for the 948 midget. 2 things that you've got to notice is it says on it standard, so we know what size it is, and there's an arrow. Now that arrow's always got to point to the front end of the engine. And on the midget and the minis, the front end is the water pump end. Now the conrods. As you can see, the line through the centre of a conrod, when it hits the main bearing, there's an offset. Now what happens is that offset must go towards, for the number 1 piston, towards the centre of the engine. For the number 2, it's towards the front and back. So they fit in pairs. I think we'll go over to the engine and get it exactly right. Right, here's the piston, there's the arrow pointing forwards. There's the conrod, there's the offset that's got to point towards its pair, number 2 cylinder. That's the way they fit together. Right, now we've got the orientation right, let's go and fit these two together. Right, got them back, and that's the way they fit. Just get rid of this gudgeon pin. That bolt out, that should just slip sideways. Just line up that cutaway so the pinch bolt can take it. About like that, I think. Just check again, just about that angle. And that goes through there. And there. And all the way through. And then try lining that up. Just a bit fiddly this bit. Right, that's got the 3 things lined up. Let's get the pinch bolt back in. I'm just going to have to set that in the vise to hold it steady. And it's 35 pound-foot, which we've set on the torque wrench. And I've just got right, we've done that one. We're going to have to go through exactly the same procedure in lining up all the other 4, and then we can fit them in the block. Right, we've fitted all the pistons to the rods. It's now time to fit them all into the block. Now to do this, what we're going to have to do is compress the piston rings so we can get them down the bores. Before we do that, we've just got to make sure that the rings, splits in the rings there, are about 30 degrees apart, but not over the gudgeon pins. Now we're going to fit piston ring compressor over. But we'll put some oil on first. This is the messy job, this. Now what we're going to do is fit the pistons in the bores. Okay, first of all, we've got to compress the piston rings. Stick them in the vise, make it easier. Check that the rings are oriented right.
John will be doing the right thing again next week. Also on next week's show, Ian Royle will be the envy of his street when he enjoys a drive in Aston Martin's DB7 Volante. We'll be back in Peterborough discovering more about the world of motorhomes. And Mike Rutherford encounters an Audi that's been given the famous S treatment. See you then.